I was driving home, and my car, driving on the freeway at around 70 miles per hour, I was hit head on by a drunk driver traveling a little faster than I was. And he was in a much larger full size truck, and he hit me head on, sent my car spinning into oncoming traffic. And the worst was yet to come, as the car behind me, they had no choice. They didn't even have time to swerve or hit their brakes. They just crashed into my door. Um, at 70 miles an hour. And immediately the left side of my car was crushed into the left side of my body, and it just smashed and broke the left side of my body. I fractured 11 bones instantaneously, punctured my lung, ruptured my spleen. The biggest bone in the body, the femur, broke in half. My eye socket was destroyed. It was crushed to the point of having to be rebuilt in titanium metal. My pelvis broke in 3 places. And I began, bleeding, and I essentially bled to death. I was dead on the side of the freeway when they pulled me out of the car for approximately 6 minutes. No heartbeat, no breathing,
My
dead for
goodness.
6 minutes. And 6 days later, I came out of a coma to find out that I had, broken all these bones. I had permanent brain damage. I had really, pretty bad scarring. And the doctor said I would never walk again. So I had to face this reality that I had really no short-term memory, and the doctors gave me the diagnosis that I was not going to walk ever again.
So they said that, and how did you react?
So I told my parents, I said, I waited till the doctors left, and I said, look, my parents were they were a wreck. I mean, understandably, they were really distraught, more so than I was. And I said, look, mom and dad, I said, the doctors might be experts in medicine, but they're not experts in me. And there's only one of two options, and they're both going to be great. So you have nothing to cry about, nothing to worry about. There's only one of two options. Either the doctors are right and I'm in a wheelchair the rest of my life. And I said, mom and dad, I've already accepted that as the worst case scenario, meaning I've decided I'll be the happiest person you've ever seen in a wheelchair, right? Because that would be my choice. If I'm stuck in a wheelchair, I could be miserable or I could be happy. And I said I would choose to be happy. But the other possibility, mom and dad, I said, is I'm going to walk again. And until I'm proven otherwise, I am going to put every ounce of energy and belief and faith into walking again. And a week after this conversation happened, which was only 3 weeks after I was found dead and had my body broken, 3 weeks after the crash and a week after I told my parents that I was going to focus on walking again, the doctors came in with routine x-rays and they said, Hal, we don't know how to explain this, but your body is healing at an incredible rate, and you're actually ready to try walking tomorrow. We're going to let you walk in therapy. So it went from never walking again to 3 weeks after the crash, I took my first step and I was back on the road to recovery. I got out of the hospital a month later, and against doctor's orders, there was a sales competition that I was really excited about before the accident happened. I'd been planning on for months, and I begged my parents to drive me to meet my sales appointments. And the doctor said no. My parents initially said no. I finally begged them, and they drove me to these appointments. And out of, I think there were 500 sales reps at the conference, and I took fourth place at that conference. About 2 weeks after I got out of the hospital, they called my dad in one day and they said, Mr. Elrod, and they said, we believe Hal's in denial because every time we see him, he's always laughing and joking and smiling and making us laugh. And they said, that's not normal, not for a 20-year-old young man who's being told he might not walk again. And so when my dad came in and kind of confronted me, I said, Dad, don't you remember I live by the 5-minute rule? I said, I learned this in my Cutco sales training, which, the 5-minute rule states it's okay to be negative when things go wrong, but not for more than 5 minutes. Essentially you set your timer on your phone, and this is what I learned to do. And, now granted, it was much milder adversity that I was dealing with, right? Like a customer not buying from you or canceling an order. It was obviously nowhere near the magnitude of the adversity I was facing after the crash, but the principle was the same. And it was that when things go wrong, you set your timer on your phone for 5 minutes. You get 5 minutes to bitch, moan, complain, vent, whatever you got to do to feel the negative emotions that you're feeling. But after 5 minutes is up, you focus 100% of your energy off of the thing that is now in the past, whether it's 5 minutes or 5 days or 5 years, it's in the past. Can't go back in time and change it. You focus all your energy on what can you control now to move in the direction that you want to.